see you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. So I know last week we had some pretty big conversations. I know it was, a lot to talk about. And I know specifically we talked about kind of how you've been feeling with your long distance boyfriend and kind of feeling like maybe he was possibly being unloyal. I know at the end of our session we did some goal setting and you noted to me that you'd like to set a goal of talking to him and bringing this up to him. Right now, kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready, how confident do you feel, maybe bringing this up to him?
Probably like a 5 right now.
Okay.
I feel a lot better than last week when we talked, but I'm still just kind of nervous because, like I mentioned, like just losing him, as it's been like a long relationship, and I don't want to accuse him of something he didn't do.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle now.
Yeah. Can I ask how long you guys were together?
About 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you guys together for 2 years. That's a pretty significant chunk of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanted to speak a little bit more about maybe just how last week's conversation made you feel a little bit better, so we can go forward and approach this in a way that's helpful for you.
I think just honestly talking it out too. What's helpful, because I didn't really know what was like going through my mind at the time.
Right.
Until when I like actually said it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a bigger deal to me than I've like kind of made it, and it is taking like a toll on me like emotionally.
Right.
And it's starting to like interfere with like academics too, because I'm just starting to stress about it, and it's just not worth the time. But I do know that like what I feel is like validated, but it's just hard to believe that sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's super fair. Even though I think you've identified in our past conversations that you don't want to feel disrespected and that you kind of want to be on the same page, I think that's totally valid, and I think it's valid that you're also feeling overwhelmed, But could you speak a little bit more about how it's affecting you and your stressors with school?
I think like I've just like spent so much time thinking about it to the point where like when I'm studying, I'm not even focusing on like the content.
Okay.
Which is just like, my issue is just like so stupid too, because like school is like priority, and there's this.
Right.
And then like when I left California, I was like, I'm not gonna let this get in the way of anything. And he told me that he would like stay strong and like he wouldn't do anything that would hurt me. But like now it's just gone too far.
Right. I mean, it sounds like there's a real disconnect between you and him in your relationship. And I also hear you kind of bringing up the fact that maybe this isn't the way you wanted to kind of approach your college experience. And I can hear that you're feeling conflicted with the fact that this is an issue that you maybe told yourself in the past you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But I want to challenge you to reframe that and understand that your interpersonal relationships are also super important, and it's affecting you deeply, and so it's so valid that you're having a hard time focusing. And so try and give yourself credit, because it's a lot to navigate. Like, you are so valid in feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just been like a lot recently too, just because I also joined a sorority.
Okay.
Which I really do enjoy. However, like we have all these cocktails and stuff, and like I don't have a date to most of them, because I don't want to like make him feel like I'm cheating on him by bringing a date. But when I do ask him to come, like he doesn't, which is fine, because like he can't just like drop everything to come to North Carolina from California. However, it still just kind of hurts too. Yeah. And then that's just hard too, because just, I know like popularity is kind of a big thing in sororities. And I try to like not let that faze me, but it's kind of getting to me now.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of a rant of just random stuff.
Don't apologize. That's what I'm here for, is to like navigate all this stuff with you and help you through it. What I'm hearing is that you're feeling frustrated because there are things that he could be doing that would make you feel more secure in your connection and in your relationship that he's not doing.
Yeah.
I also want to, circle back to something we talked about last week. You noted that, like, he had been posting girls on his social media and that he had, been messaging you a little bit differently. I wanted to check in with you now about that and see kind of how that's felt this past week and how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten worse too since I saw you.
Okay.
I feel like there's been more and more girls on his story.
Okay.
Like, and there's always one that is always on it, and it's kind of like a mix of like when he's with a group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of hard for me to even like figure out.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to prevent him from having like friends that are girls, because I don't think that is fair, but I also do think there's like a fine line.
Absolutely.
And there's not effective communication to the point where
Right.
I feel secure.
Right.
So that's also just an issue, and like he's not texting me as much,
Okay.
which is fine. However, like it's not how it used to be. Of like he used to text me like every morning and every night, like good night,
Mhm.
good morning, and like just like comforting texts of like how you're doing.
Yeah.
But now I'm just getting like these 1 and 2 word like
Right.
texts, and, like how are you? Like are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'd rather you not like ask at all, because those are just so like
Right.
plain answers or
Yeah.
questions.
I mean, when you go from having a connection with someone where you're having intimate conversations in the past and then switching now where he's not talking to you the way that he used to, that's so fair.
Yeah.
That's confusing. And then if you conflate that with the fact he's posting, people in his story with the fact that he's messaging you differently,
Mhm.
it's very overwhelming to feel
Yeah.
that disconnect. And I can also imagine how stressful it is that you're long distance and that you have to navigate this
Mhm.
over the phone.
Yeah. I think one thing too is I'm very scared of change
Mm-hmm.
in my life. Just because I like when everything is the same and I'm comfortable in it.
Yeah,
But like if I were to talk to him, there would be a risk of change.
right.
And it might be for the better or for the worse,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that, and like not knowing what's gonna happen is terrifying.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then like if I were have to like see him when I like go back home
Mhm.
and it doesn't go well when I talk to him,
Mm-hmm.
it would like ruin my Thanksgiving break, probably ruin his, and
Yeah.
then I'd just be upset.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right. So it sounds like there's a lot of like immediate negative effects you can see going into this conversation. But also like talk to me a little bit about like what it would look like going forward if you continue to kind of just not bring this up to him or sit with it yourself. Talk to me about what that feels like, because it seems like you're feeling frustrated in this state. So tell me
Yeah.
what that might look like for you going forward.
I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd probably be even more stressed
Mm-hmm.
than I am right now, and probably more confused too
Yeah.
when if I don't talk to him.
Right.
Which may not talking to him make it worse.
Yeah.
But then I just know probably the right thing is to reach out, but it's just so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, confrontation and conversation is scary. And also, there's this added pressure of we don't see each other super often. And, you don't want to bring conflict to that. I'm sure you just want to, like, enjoy your time together.
Exactly.
And that can be super disheartening. And also, it's so fair if it's not the time. If right now is not the time. And it may not be. It may be, if going home and having a restful and calm Thanksgiving is what you need right now, prioritize what you need, because it could be something that just needs a little bit more time, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I did think, because it's been a long semester too,
Mhm.
because I'm a freshman, and
Okay.
this is my first time away from home for like
Right.
far away, not seeing
Yeah.
my family.
Right.
And I haven't been back since then.
Mhm.
And it's just been like a lot with,
Yeah.
like I said, like recruitment and like
Yeah.
academics and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe I do just need to go home and rest.
Yeah.
And then there's just part of me that wants to get this over with.
Mhm.
So it's just so conflicting.
Yeah, I can understand why it's super conflicting. I think that's awesome that you're able to like identify that it's something you want to tackle. I think that's the first step, and like setting goals towards working towards things is acknowledging that there is an issue. But just pivoting a little bit, I'm hearing you talk about and bring up your kind of experience with your sorority. Could you speak to me a little bit, like, you know, how that's been going for you?
So, like, when I did recruitment, I was honestly really scared to do it just because of, like, the typical, like, sorority stereotype of, like, people being mean and judging you and, like, not accepting. However, I did decide to rush, and I was really glad I did. And everyone in my sorority is really nice, but I just, like, find myself comparing myself to them.
Yeah.
And most of them have boyfriends. So that's also really hard because I technically do, but I don't know what terms we're on.
Yeah.
So I guess the whole thing is like a comparison type of thing.
Right. And I think it's like, this is the relationship that you're navigating. It makes sense why it's starting to kind of creep into these other aspects of your life, and that's not something that you can necessarily help. I think it's about, you know, going forward and thinking about what you really want and how you're feeling. In regards to your, like, friends in your sorority, do you feel like it's something that you're doing internally? You know, it's just like seeing people with their boyfriends and feeling some type of way about it? Or is it a feeling of, I miss my boyfriend, I wish he was here, or, you know, I'm feeling unsettled in my relationship, so this is making me think about it more? And it could fall in between. It's a range for sure.
It's a lot of everything too. I think probably the comparison, and then I do miss my boyfriend, so it's probably a mix of like jealousy too, which is hard.
Right.
So I guess everything, it is, like you said, it's feeding into like all my issues, which is really difficult.
Right.
So yeah, I never thought about that because it really is making more of an impact than I thought, and it's also taking away from like my enjoyment of like what college could be.
Right.
So I don't know. And then like my family is also really close with my boyfriend, which also is playing another factor in it.
Right.
Because like I know it's only been 2 years, but like if we got married, I think my parents would be okay with it. Because they're very protective of me, and my boyfriend is like really nice, and he's a good person. So I think that would also be something with my parents too. I'd have to talk to them of like why I'm not with him anymore. Right. And then they'd question my judgment of what I saw in him. So I just think it's like fear of like how people are gonna view me. Right. Gotcha. Which is just kind of like going into a spiral at this point.
Yeah. I mean, optics and feeling people's perception, especially your family, is super prevalent. Could you speak a little bit more about, you made a comment saying, you know, they would question what I saw in him. Is that, you know, is that kind of the dynamic that you have with them? That they kind of question you and your decisions? Or is that just kind of like a fear of maybe how they'll respond to this?
It's probably more of a fear, but I think especially my dad is like really protective over me. And they do trust me with my judgment. But like if he were to find out that someone was like cheating on me, I think that was when I'd be more concerned of like, well, why are you with him? Like I told you to be careful, and like so I think it might be just more of a fear. It could happen, but and I'm also just like, I don't like the unpredictable. So I mean right now everything is like up in the air. So I think that's also like anxiety inducing as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of working pieces, but they seem to like all touch each other in some way or another, and I think that's fair. Thinking about your dad, and you know, inherently like our parents' opinions, they're scary and a lot. But also I challenge you to realize like you are currently identifying these issues in your relationship, and you're taking these steps, you're here, you're thinking about it, you're processing it. And I challenge you to maybe think about your parents being proud of you for putting yourself first and for knowing this might not be what you deserve, rather than maybe blaming yourself because you couldn't have known. And that's scary, but that's, you know.
I I've never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I just think sometimes I just want everything to be perfect too. That when like one thing goes wrong, I like go completely negative.
Yeah.
Just with like academics and
Yeah.
like relationships.
Yeah.
So I guess I could be a little bit more positive sometimes.
Yeah, no, full personal disclosure, I can be that way too. Like, I think when things start to all domino, it can feel very, you know, how is any of this positive?
Yeah.
But I want you to think about, like, that this is very current and this is very pressing. And I kind of challenge you to think about what the future might look like and what you want it to look like. You know, if you could speak a little bit about what would things look like if you know, had this conversation with him and it turns out that maybe these kind of suspicions are true, how would your day-to-day life really change here, you know, being long distance?
Yeah. Well, I think I'd probably be upset
Yeah.
and disappointed, but I guess in the long run, I would have more independence, which may be good or bad, but I can have time to like explore college and actually have fun and meet new people.
Right.
And like maybe even get a date to a cocktail without feeling like I'm cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also just like being confused every day and like trying to be like an investigator. So I think that would definitely be one thing that could definitely make my life easier.
It's exhausting to be apprehensive about a connection that you weren't once apprehensive about.
Yeah.
I also think the fact that you know, you're concerned about just having a date to a cocktail that would probably, it sounds like, maybe elevate your experience and how you feel around your friends and like their boyfriends being there. You're even concerned with the optics of that and that seeming like cheating when, you know, if you think, and comparatively to his actions, you know, reframe that in your mind. I think it's important to. And
I think
your concerns are valid, and they're also like actionable things and things that you're observing and a disconnect that you have in your relationship.
That's a good perspective. I've never thought of that before. Yeah, this was really helpful. I think I just, like I said, I'm just so negative too that it's one thing, it's like the domino effect, which is extremely hard.
So you feel like you're just generally overall, your kind of perception of things in your life right now is feeling not good, is feeling negative?
Yeah, but I feel like it could be more positive if I like reframed my mind maybe. Because I do have so much good, but I just kind of focus on the negative.
No, that's valid, and there's a lot coming up for you right now. And I think what we can do going forward is set some goals on what you can do in your day-to-day life to like think about the positives and you know, I think an action item that maybe we can set right now is maybe just in the morning when you wake up, think of just simply maybe 2 things that you're grateful for right when your alarm goes off. Maybe even put it in your alarm if that's in your little alarm tag, if that's something you feel comfortable with. That could be, if you feel comfortable with, that could be something that you start off with for sure.
That's a good idea. I might consider that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad we got to chat today, and I look forward to kind of unpacking this more in our next session. And I hope you have a lovely and amazing week and that your cocktail goes well and is fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.